Welcome to Too Real for TV, Season 1, Episode 12. Have you ever been in a situation, maybe a family dinner, where you suddenly feel like you've been cast in someone else's reality show, completely against your will? A story that blew up online recently really hits on this exact, very modern problem, that clash between our right to just be, to have our own privacy, and a relative's burning desire to share every single moment online. It's a story that is, frankly, too real for TV. So let's break down what happened, why it hit such a nerve with so many people, and what it all means for us. If you want more content like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we're going to dive into the story of the birthday dinner that started this whole firestorm. Then, we'll look at how the internet and actual professionals weighed in. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the actual rules of consent, because, yes, there are rules. And finally, we'll wrap up with some real, practical advice on how you can draw the line in your own life. All right, let's start at the beginning. Part 1, the story that launched 1,000 comments. This is all about a birthday dinner where family dynamics and the pressure of social media just completely collided. And this is the quote that's at the absolute heart of the whole mess. "You look great, it's just vibes." That's what the sister-in-law, who's an influencer, said right after being asked, again, to stop filming the birthday girl. It's that phrase, that casual, dismissive wave of the hand to a very clear boundary that just lit the fuse for everything that came next. So let's just walk through the timeline, because the breakdown of respect here is just, wow. 3 days before the dinner, a super clear boundary is set in writing in the family group chat, "Please don't film me." And the sister-in-law agrees to it. Okay, simple enough, right? But then, at the dinner, it takes less than 10 minutes for her to start filming anyway. She gets a quiet reminder, but it doesn't stick. The breaking point, the real moment of truth, is when the cake comes out. During the happy birthday song, a moment that's supposed to be personal and celebratory, she stands up, camera pointed right at the birthday girl's face, and announces a birthday girl reveal for her followers. That's when the birthday girl finally just puts her hand over the lens. And the aftermath? Oh, the aftermath is the real kicker. The sister-in-law is upset her shot was ruined. The mother-in-law suggests the birthday girl should have just moved out of the way. And her own husband is worried that she made a scene. It's a masterclass in how a simple request gets twisted into a massive family drama. Now you know a story like this was not going to stay in the family group chat. Of course not. It exploded online. And the verdict, from both the general public and, importantly, from actual photography professionals, was pretty much unanimous. This comment right here really says it all, doesn't it? My birthday is not your job. This just perfectly captures what everyone was feeling. See, the sister-in-law's big defense for all of this was, "It's my job, I'm an influencer." But the internet came back hard, saying, look, you cannot just hijack someone else's personal, private celebration and turn it into your workplace, especially when they've explicitly told you not to. And this comment brings up such a key point. The sister-in-law's complaint was that she was made to look unprofessional. But people, including pros in the field, were quick to point out that it was her own actions that were unprofessional. The real issue wasn't that she was humiliated by having her camera blocked. It was that she failed to follow the most basic, fundamental, ethical rule of her so-called profession: get consent. And really, when you put her actions side by side with actual professional standards, her whole "it's my job" defense just completely disintegrates. Look at this. A real professional gets consent before an event. They use things like model releases for commercial work. They absolutely respect a person's right to opt out. And they know how to separate their work life from their personal life. The sister-in-law, she ignored a boundary she had explicitly agreed to, and she basically treated her family like unpaid extras in her content. The idea of being unobtrusive, of staying out of the way, which is like rule number 1 for event photographers, was just completely thrown out the window. Her defense doesn't just fail to hold up, it actually proves how unprofessionally she was acting. So this whole mess goes way beyond just bad manners or family drama. It actually steps right into the territory of consent, which carries real legal and ethical weight. So let's actually talk about what the rules are, because they do exist. Okay, so check this out. Under modern data protection laws, like the GDPR in Europe, a picture of your face isn't just a picture. Legally, it's defined as personal data. That puts it in the same category as your home address or your phone number. And to use someone's personal data, you can't just take it. You need a legitimate legal reason to do it. So what are those legal reasons? Well, let's look at the big 3 that might apply here. First, there's consent. But not just any consent. It has to be explicit, it should be recorded, and it can be withdrawn at any time. In this case, consent wasn't just missing, it was explicitly denied, so strike one. Second, contractual obligation. This is for when you hire a professional model, for example. The birthday girl was the guest of honor, not a paid employee. Strike two. The third one is a bit tricky. It's called legitimate interest. But, and this is a huge but, it can be overwritten by an individual's rights and freedoms. And a direct verbal, please don't film me, is a pretty clear exercise of those rights. So, yeah, strike three. The sister-in-law doesn't seem to meet a single one of these legal standards.
Even at big public events, concerts, conferences, whatever, the professional best practice is to give people a heads up and a way to opt out. You'll see signs at the entrance, or maybe they'll hand out stickers for people who don't want to be in photos. The point is, respect for individual privacy is built right into the professional process. So a private birthday dinner with a clear, pre-stated no should be the most respected boundary of all.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all. How do you handle this in your own life? What do you actually do when you have a family member who loves to overshare? Let's get into some practical, actionable steps for setting, and maybe more importantly, enforcing your boundaries. First things first, and let's get this crystal clear. Setting a boundary is not selfish, it's not rude, and it's not you being dramatic. It is a fundamental act of self-care and self-respect. It's about protecting your own mental peace, and honestly, in the long run, it's what allows relationships to actually survive. Because without boundaries, resentment just builds and builds, and that is way more damaging than one awkward conversation. So how do you actually do it? Step one. If you have a partner, get on the same page. A united front is absolutely crucial. You can't be undermined. Step two, be assertive, and I don't mean aggressive. Just be clear and firm. State what you need calmly. 3, for recurring problems, like maybe relatives who just show up unannounced, try to establish a clear schedule or expectation. 4, and this one is so important, avoid getting sucked into an argument. State your boundary, give a simple reason if you want, and then stop talking. You don't have to defend it or justify it endlessly. Let them process it. And finally, number 5, remember that enforcing a boundary doesn't mean you have to be mean. You can still be a kind person, but it might mean you need to create some distance if that boundary is stomped on again and again.
And if you're still wondering, is it really worth the potential drama? The answer is 1,000% yes. Because a lack of boundaries, it can poison everything. It creates friction with your spouse, it wrecks your mental health, it leads to you being completely taken for granted, it can make you feel like a guest in your own life. At the end of the day, setting boundaries is how you teach people how to treat you. It's the absolute foundation of mutual respect. Without it, you're not really in a healthy relationship at all. And that brings us right back to where we started, and to the question at the very heart of this whole thing. The husband in the story was worried that his wife made a scene. But let's really think about that. If you set a clear, reasonable boundary and someone else ignores it, forcing you to act to defend yourself, who is the one truly causing the scene? Is it the person who just wanted a little peace and privacy, or is it the one who chose to cross that line? Thanks for watching this episode of Too Real for TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.